Hello and welcome to the Spinneyhead podcast. Today we continue my read-through of Sounds of Soldiers, my short novel from 2009, which is frighteningly still relevant. When I came in to record today's session, just as I got into the generator, which is where the podcast booth is, I saw on the TV screen a news item about a double murder in a synagogue in Manchester. So everything's a bit heightened at the moment, and a couple of days after Trump telling his military that they might go and train in American cities, it's all a little bit too close to what I wrote. Which is a really happy way to start the podcast, isn't it? I do hope you enjoy the story, because there's some good bits in the story. It's a more positive take after some horrendous events have taken place. This looks at how things might recover. If you enjoy the book, it's available in print and ebook from just about every decent book retailer online. And once this series is wrapped up, I shall be editing it all together and releasing it as an audiobook, which will be available across some 30-odd audiobook shops. If you'd like to support me in creating some new stories, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Patreon isn't just about my writing, it's about my YouTube videos and my hobby shop, which is designing mostly 3D printed content for model railways, car modelers, and wargamers. It's, let's call it eclectic. And obviously, the more of you who support me on there and the more people buy my books, the more books and products and videos and other stuff I can create. So, thank you for joining me, and let's dive into the story. Storm warning. I'd forgotten I left a GPS receiver in Manchester. The batteries are dead and the compartment is packed with fuzzy blue-white crystals. I don't know if it will be any use if I do clean it up and put fresh peel in it anyway, as I'm not sure the American Navstar GPS system is still operational. Anyway, I've now got a rugged receiver for the European Galileo satellites that's got me into and out of its fair share of risky places. The GPS receiver goes into the box of maybe later stuff, and I pull more junk from the crate. I used to be such a hoarder. This is what was left over after I'd had several clear-outs. The chunky blue personal stereo plays music CDs and can also read MP3s from data discs. To think there was a time when 3 discs, just over 2 gigabytes, was enough for my whole music collection and most of my important files. The battery compartment is empty and fuzz-free. This piece of outdated technology goes into the box on the back of the bike trailer. The bike trailer has a built-in crate with a heavy-duty plastic bag as a liner for waterproofing, so I can carry electronic equipment without much worry. Perfect for this typically grey Manchester day with its lurking promise of rain. I haven't run out of cash yet, but I might as well clean out and trade the stuff for my storage locker. I've put a few books in there, but paper's dense and I don't want the bag to be too heavy to carry at the other end. So I've found a box of electronics to plunder. There's a tangled root system of cabling to work through. Kettle leads, figure-of-8 leads, USB, printer cables, 2 transformers for I don't remember what. The challenge of unravelling them appeals to my borderline autistic side, and within half an hour they are each in their own loops tied with string. I have enough now to test my towing ability and try out the waters in the Arndale. When I picked up the trailer, I had the fixie converted to a single speed, with freewheel and proper brakes. I guess I'm not a hipster after all, but it is easier and safer when towing the trailer. The surprising thing about Market Street is how many of the high street names of old remain. Their product ranges have all shrunk. Some of them have merged and the footprints of their shops are smaller, but they're still there. But I'm not interested in them today. A lot of the Arndale Centre's floor space is given over to day lease, table or cubicle-sized spaces up for grabs to the first traders there in the morning. The shops quite often spill out onto the walkways. It's a big covered flea market and craft fair bazaar. The former Aldi houses a lot of computer recyclers and repairers. I go there first to see what I can get for my chunk. One stall specialises in cabling. He takes everything I offer him at pennies per metre. Next over is a young girl surrounded by drives and personal entertainment paraphernalia. She looks like she should be in school, possibly younger than the Discman I offer her. After turning it over and over and working out how to pop open the lid, she gives me a disdainful look. How dare I bring something so low-tech to her stall? 2 levies, she offers. It's worth more than that. It's vintage. How about 10? We both know the economy isn't strong enough for there to be well-off eccentrics willing to waste money on outmoded technologies. 4. 5. 4.5. Okay. We don't shake on the deal. She counts out the chits and graces me with a smile as I leave. Next, I want to see what I can get for my books and what publications are available. Paper, along with vinyl, cassettes and videotapes, is traded in the old market section of the shopping centre. I shoulder my bag and head off. Except I'm being followed. There's something about the way the crowd moves a few people behind me. I keep catching glimpses of it in windows. There's a presence amongst them that makes some of them uncomfortable, must hint at police or revenue, and it's keeping a set distance from me. I head into the first bookshop. Jane's Aircraft of World War II is a fair size, and hardback as well. I pick it out of the bag, which I then leave just peeking around the end of a shelf. Decoy in place, I speed walk down the aisle and pop around the other end of the shelf to get a better look at my tail. He's very familiar, and he knows where to look for me. I last saw him in a French forest. Hello, Mr. Jones. It's good to see you made it back to England in one piece. He glances at the book in my hand and raises his eyebrows, obviously amused. I try to hide it. And you? You just happened to be in Manchester? I thought I'd let you buy me a drink. There's a brewer's co-op with its own bar in a corner of what used to be Halle Square. They have a selection of short-run beers. I've missed real ale, and I have to control myself when presented with so much choice. I pick the leftmost brew, and only a half. I do have to ride home. My SAS contact opts for a pint of porter. He chooses an alcove where he can sit with his back to the wall and keep a lookout on the comings and goings. Have you fallen on hard times? He asks. Having to sell stuff to survive? Hardly. But it would be good to get my hands on my own money. I've heard that you're being processed as a priority, as the government did appropriate funds from your account occasionally. That's awfully civilised of them. You may be in danger. There's something about the almost offhand way he announces it that chills me more than melodrama would. Right now? Elizabeth's coming to meet me soon. I can't have her mixed up in anything. Not as far as I know. It's only just been flagged, but there were problems with some passports amongst the recent batches. We think there are a few American agents in the country. Former American agents, I should say. They're loyal to the old guard. As they can't go home, we presume they will cause havoc over here. And you think I'm a target? Google yourself sometime. Yes, people still use Google, though it's not quite the same company. By the time the US shut down its main servers, everything had been carefully mirrored and cached at multiple sites around the world. If the founders and workers are ever released, they'll be richer by an amount significant even for them. Am I going to get protection? I'm afraid not. There are more prominent targets, and we're barely covering the top few. You have an advantage over them. You know some craft, and you've seen combat. From a distance, we know you've killed at least once. And with your bare hands. Some of the brigade were in awe. I've got a sick, heavy feeling in my stomach. Nightmares. At least you're still human. He's seen my expression. I don't think he's mocking me. He finishes his pint. I'll do what I can. I'll be around. As he walks away, half a pint doesn't feel enough. A forest. He should have killed me. He was younger, he had the training, and he had been in peak physical condition. I'd followed a 3-man squad into the trees, chasing rustling and snapping branches. Within minutes we were lost in the forest. Now the hunted. There was a burst of fire. Branches snapped. Splinters flew everywhere. I was knocked flat. I didn't black out, and the pain I felt was from an elbow in the back. But I was on the ground, and I couldn't move. I was pinned by a large Frenchman. I think his name was Claude. And there was movement in the forest. The shooter, or shooters, were heading towards me. There was a shotgun on the ground, just beyond my reach, and a root that I could get a hold of. I pulled myself a little out from under the body, and it moved, rolling off me with a groan. I fought the urge to shout and pulled myself a little further, until I could get my hand around the stock of the shotgun. The shooter, I was sure it was only one now, was nearly upon me. Judging by what I could hear, he was behind me and to the right. If I twisted, I could get in a shot and free my feet. So that was what I did. I shot a tree. I don't think I did it fatal damage. My target was to the right of it. He recoiled from the haze of splinters and shot fragments and stumbled on a root. I rolled into a sitting position and threw the gun at him. My throw was more accurate than my shot, catching him on the back of his head and sending him to his knees. Before he could stand, I'd covered the distance to him and tackled him to the ground. I had my left arm around his neck, crushing and twisting as best I could, and my right arm and body weight pinning his gun arm. The assault rifle fired a burst, then clicked on an empty chamber. I could put all my effort into subduing him now. My right arm gave my left extra leverage. Too late, he started fighting my grip. He was already losing coordination. His movements became less violent until they were little more than twitches. Eventually, these stopped as well. I kept the death grip on his throat a while longer, staring into the trees. When I let go, I would have to step back and look at what I had done, and accept that it had felt good. Frenchtown. As I'm not sleeping in my room, I've turned it into an office. The walls are filling up with pictures. I've found a source of vegetable-based inks and resurrected my old printer. Some of the colours are a little bit off, but it's good to have physical versions of images I've only ever seen on screen. They're all happy pictures, none of the nightmare-inducing material. People I met in Europe. Marianne, the band of counterinsurgents who took me down country. Vanderbroek. I'm seeing how many of them I can track down. In the long limbo period between the end of hostilities and being allowed out of France, I was at a loose end. Somehow, peace meant that my movements should be restricted, so I was confined to the city limits of Apt. I had access to the internet, but it was spotty. I did what I could to get back in touch with my family and catch up with the rest of the world. Amongst the sites I discovered was the French government's war registry, their attempt to catalogue the dead and bring families back together. I registered everyone whose name I knew and forgot about it. Until messages started arriving a few days ago. The list of the dead is longer than I'd like, but I'm finding out all about the families of the survivors. There were more emails this morning, 3 crosses and 2 ticks. I'm only 2 off tracking all my counterinsurgents. Meanwhile, none of the official government representatives I interacted with have shown up in my results. You'd think they'd be the easiest to find, until you consider that they were mostly interacting with me on covert matters. They could check to see if I'm a troll, but they probably don't want to waste the time and have opted to keep me in the dark. Elizabeth's not so sure about what I'm doing to her spare room. It's beginning to look like the murderer's room in a serial killer film, she says, looking perky and paint spattered in the doorway. Except someone else did the killing. I'm thinking of putting something about this in the book, if I can get the permissions sorted out. On cue, the laptop beeps. Is that thing permanently connected? Elizabeth worries. It connects every half hour to check my mail servers for a few seconds. I've learnt a lot of tricks for using spotty connections over the years. Let's see. I'm quiet for long enough that Elizabeth comes and stares over my shoulder. Sup? Basically, the French government appreciates my concern for the welfare of its citizens and would like me to meet a representative who is visiting the expatriate community in Manchester. Why does that send a cold shiver all the way down from my neck to my balls? Where? Pexels. I'd heard there was a Frenchtown. I never knew where. Can I come along? The trams still run, though not as often as they used to. You have to make a day of some journeys. Pexels is still a grim place, grey and dark in the shadow of a chemical plant. I'll have to see what's going on with that old industry sometime. We're meeting the French representative in the market hall. Stereotypically, the French have taken over many of the stalls, offering Gallic takes on local products. The invasion has been welcomed, judging by the local accents around us as we check out the wares. The core of Manchester's French population was a group of students over on an exchange programme when everything kicked off. Catering students, by the look of things. Their trapped countrymen gravitated to this little town, moved into the same neighbourhoods and created a community. When the war ended, quite a few of them didn't want to go home. So which one's the government contact? Elizabeth asks. Don't know. I guess he'll show up. Let's browse. Standing by a stall of wooden toys, I feel a tug at my trousers. I look down at a cherubic round face topped by black curls. Bonjour, monsieur, the little boy says. I drop down to nearer his level. Bonjour, monsieur. Comment t'appelles-tu? Je m'appelle Robert. Oui? Je m'appelle Robert aussi. Je sais. Ma mère est là-bas. He points down the row at a woman who smiles and waves. I guess the child's age, do the maths, and get that chill from neck to balls again. I called him my atomic baby, and said I was naming him Robert after Oppenheimer. Some people must think I am such a bitch to make my child's name a sick joke. Marianne shrugs and smiles. But you know he is really named for his father. I nod. I've not been able to say much since I saw her. Elizabeth has put the pieces together and decided she doesn't want to be part of this conversation. She's a table over, being charmed by Robert Jr. At first I thought the morning sickness was delayed radiation poisoning. Maybe the mushroom clouds had blown our way. When I found out the truth, well, there was no way I could do anything but keep him. I tried to find you, I managed at last. I know. I could have sent the news to you many times over, but I kept putting it off. I think I was being selfish, keeping the bebe to myself. So why tell me now? I realised how selfish I was being. The war is over. It is a time for rebuilding and looking for good things to celebrate. We made a beautiful child, and you deserve to know that. Thank you. Marianne lays a hand on mine. I would like it if you were a part of his life. I'm not asking for maintenance or any kind of support, merely that he can know where he came from. And I hope that we can be friends. Nothing more. I would not want to jeopardise your relationship with Elizabeth. Did I introduce you to? No, I don't think I did I? Her expression is readably unreadable. You're still keeping up the family tradition, then? I have been assigned to the French consulate office covering the north of England, which obviously includes Manchester. I apologise, but I did some research before I brought my child here. Baby. Elizabeth is very quiet. Marianne has taken Robert off to meet more expats. As he gave a little wave goodbye, Elizabeth had the broody, want one, look. Now there's so much she wants to say, but isn't. Perhaps she doesn't know where to start. I offer her my hand. After a moment, she takes it, and I lead her out of the hall. There are tables and chairs on the pavement, with parasols over them incongruous under the grey sky. We take a couple of seats and order herbal teas. He's beautiful, Elizabeth announces quietly. Yeah, I think I'm going into some sort of shock, but I can't withdraw into myself, not whilst Elizabeth is with me, especially as she wants to talk. I never... Were you in love? No. I mean, we only knew each other for a few days. I haven't told you about it, have I? I didn't ask. Apart from when we were talking numbers. No one really wants to hear stories about their partner's exes, unless it involves schadenfreude or slapstick. So I tell her about Toulon, and the spy who fucked me. I lay off the more lurid details, though I may talk up the nukes a bit. From that point on, Elizabeth stares at me with wide eyes and open mouth. Do you have more stories like that? At least I seem to have taken her mind off what was upsetting her. Some of them may sound unbelievable. I stroke the back of her hand with my thumb. You're angry? I'm upset. Oh, no, I am angry. How can she tell you like that? Why did she have to be so dramatic? For a moment there's a look on her face. Don't cross her. If your son wasn't so fucking charming, I'd have left you there. She's going to be around for a while, and now I've found out about Junior, I want to get to know him. Are you going to be okay with that? Probably not, but there's a problem. I get that chill again. I don't think the dramatic pause is for effect. She looks down at her empty teacup, then straight at me. I love you, so I'm going to trust you. I pull her across the table and kiss her. She takes it further, coming round to wrap her arms around me and sit on my lap. When she pulls away, it's to wipe her cheeks. I kiss her again. I love you. That gets her crying again, and I feel guilty. They're happy tears, though. Who's being the drama queen now? She asks with a smile. Let's go and find your baby mama and see when we can steal the baby. Bomb. I don't flinch. There's a twitch of my head at the noise, then the old reflexes tell me the explosion was at a safe distance. I'm the only adult on the street, standing upright. Little Robert is looking up at me. I pick him up and we scan the sky above the rooftops. There! The cloud is rising, a darker grey than the others, and with flecks in it that glint in the weak sun. Was that a bomb? Elizabeth asks. Yeah. There's not a lot else it could be. Fuck, says Robert. He's learning all the wrong English words. Elizabeth goes red. I do some triangulation on landmarks. Right on Market Street. There are sirens. People are moving to and from the explosion. Time was, I'd have been heading for the bomb site too, but I have more important people with me today. As we walk away, the paranoia starts. Over there is a row of recycling bins. How deadly could a bomb dumped in a bottle bank be? All that flying glass. There's a lone car parked outside the central library. Have I seen it there before? We are down a side street. No parked cars, no suspicious packages. When my phone starts ringing, I put Robert down. Hold Aunt Elizabeth's hand. He's picked up on my fear. I have to calm down. I know who's calling, without even looking at the phone screen. We're all right. Thank goodness. Where are you? I can send a car for you. No, that's actually a really good idea. This isn't the time for bravado. We're just off Portland Street. We can wait at the junction with Oxford Street. Very good. There's the crinkly sound of a hand over the mouthpiece as instructions are passed on. I swap the hand I'm holding the phone in and reach out to Robert. With a nod to Elizabeth, we set off for our rendezvous. Did you see anything? No, we were quite a few streets away. I reckon it was on Market Street. Large enough to be a car bomb, I'd say. The Americans, logical first choice for any violence, don't like sending suicide bombers. They prefer booby traps. I remember one repurposed anti-tank mine buried beneath a town square that nearly finished the work started by the raiding party that had planted it. Marianne would ask me more questions, but she knows I'm not in war zone mode and won't have the answers. I have to make some more calls. Thank you for looking after Robert. The car arrives at the junction a few minutes after we do. It makes a sweeping U-turn and pulls up next to us. It's one of those gorgeous multi-fuel hybrids styled after the Citroën DS of old. Up to now I've only seen pictures, so despite everything, I just stare for a moment before opening the door. I could never send a car for you, Elizabeth bitches as she settles into the plush seats. I'm sure you would if you could. There's a rear-facing child seat behind the driver. I buckle Robert in and fuss over the straps. C'est bien, papa. Merci, he eventually says when it gets too much. I'm still not used to being someone's papa. As we silently roll back to the French consulate, Robert regales us with details of how the driver sometimes lets him sit in the front and all the other cars have the steering wheel in the wrong place. The consulate is in Salford Quays, occupying a former hotel. Marianne is waiting as we pull up at the door. She's calmer than I managed earlier, but that doesn't keep her from checking her son for damage. He tells her all about the Big Bang and exploring empty streets. He's dropping the occasional English word into his speech, which is gratifying until he punctuates a sentence with fuck. Marianne looks at me, trying for a severe expression but failing. I see you are teaching our son good Anglo-Saxon. That was me, I'm afraid, offers Elizabeth. Sorry. He is a Navy brat. He should know how to curse, and he hears far worse from his grandfather. That trips a few connections in my head. Oh, my parents are visiting next week. They should meet him. I haven't told them about him yet. Absolutely. You should know his family. May I meet them as well? I look at Elizabeth for the answer to that. It will all be happening in her house after all. She shrugs. The more the merrier, I guess. Thank you. If you leave now, the driver can take you home before he ends his shift. Say goodbye to Papa and Aunt Elizabeth, Robert. He hugs my legs. Au revoir, Papa. I pick him up and kiss the top of his head. Au revoir, petit Robert. The proper goodbye performance is saved for Aunt Elizabeth. My son is a tart, and I love him even more for it. He reaches up, demanding to be picked up, and they have a long goodbye chat in Franglais. Marianne turns slightly away from Elizabeth and Robert to talk quietly to me. This is the first bomb in Manchester in a long time. I've been hearing rumours about the true identities of some of the Brits returning from the continent. Indeed. She's impressed. Of course, they couldn't cause long-term damage by themselves, but they could create a lot of suffering. I'll be on the lookout, though I'm sure some folks will be just as suspicious of me as an incomer. Elizabeth puts Robert down, and he bounces off through the doors. She gets that broody look again. Marianne turns to her and opens her arms for an embrace. Elizabeth is taken aback and doesn't know how to react for a moment. Then she accepts the hug and a kiss on each cheek. Neither says anything. They're both navigating their strange relationship and can't think of any phrase that couldn't be taken the wrong way. Elizabeth and I sink into the seats in the car and wave to Marianne as we drive away. Then Elizabeth takes one of my hand in both of hers and smiles at me as we hum along the empty roads. Dancing in the dark. We watch the reports on the bomb for far too long. The television is the only source of light in the room. More deaths. I really thought I'd left all that behind. Elizabeth can't seem to settle. She tries lying with her head in my lap, then curling up against the cushion at the other end. After a while, she gets up and walks through to the kitchen to check something. I take the opportunity to check again the locks on the front door and move the bike trailer so that the first thing anyone coming through will do is tip it over. We both get back to the living room at the same time. She heads over to the television. That's about enough of that. She switches it off. It's dark. I'm loving how little light pollution there is in the city nowadays. Of course, it does mean I can't see where Elizabeth is. Our only guide as we home in on each other is radar and our shuffling and voices. Was every day like this in France? Overpowered by knowing you were only streets away from death? Not every day, but too many, for sure. Let's see. 1, 2 steps, and I'm up against the side of the sofa. Now, there's no table in the middle of the room, but that also means there's enough space for us to walk past each other. I make a guess and head off for where I think the television is. I adjust my direction slightly when I hear a giggle. I never thought I wanted babies until I met yours. Now I don't know. Maybe one day. If things ever get better. But tonight I just want to fuck. After a moment she adds, if I can find you. I take another step towards the voice. A hand brushes against me, stops and grabs a t-shirt. Then she's right against me, one hand pulling my head down into a kiss, the other struggling with my belt. Sounds of soldiers. Second time lucky on part Xing my books. I stop by the storage unit to pick up a few more, then head for the market. The load's so heavy this time that I drag along the trailer as a handcart, trying not to be too antisocial about it. If possible, it's always good to do a little reconnaissance before committing to anything, so I go for a wander around the book alleys. Mostly, this load consists of non-fiction, war library stuff and that fine fighting book on Second World War aircraft. The third shop along seems to stock the right kind of books, but it's not that makes me stop. Beside the till is a display of new books, the paper still white and the spine stiff. The sign in front of the pile says, top seller, and the picture on the top copy is very, very familiar. I licensed the image of the Eiffel Tower's destruction to an agency. They sell it on, take a cut, and tell me who's using it legitimately. I don't recall them mentioning a book called Sounds of Soldiers, by someone with the same name as me. I pick up a copy and flip it around to read the blurb on the back. There's a picture of Robert Jones. It's entirely unlike looking in a mirror. Apparently, alternate me is blonde and vacantly good-looking. I wouldn't be surprised if, like the cover, this image has been stolen. Robert Jones was trapped in Paris when the Americans bombed the Eiffel Tower, capturing one of the iconic images of the conflict between the USA and old Europe. He then spent 5 years covering the war in his blog, witnessing both the atomic battle of the Mediterranean and the final surrender of American forces. And, no doubt, all that time he looked good in a Ponzi sweater, chinos and deck shoes. I should know better, but I look inside. The chapter titles are familiar enough. No doubt the prose would be as well if I paused to read any. What I can tell from skimming is that the layout is awful and inconsistent, and the internal black and white photos are very badly reproduced. The guy behind the counter looks down at the trailer and nods. Selling or exchanging? Probably exchanging, if I can find anything interesting. I put my book down in front of him. Yeah, that one's real popular right now. He tells a good story, but, no way he did all that stuff. I can't help but smile. I flipped the book over and tapped the portrait. No way he did all that stuff. He's not Robert Jones. How do you know? I'm still in the habit of carrying identification. The photo driving license comes out of my back pocket and I lay it on top of the book. The guy does a double take from the card to me and then back to the card. No fucking way. Oh, fucking way. Trust me. So where do you get these from? He's looking very nervous. We print them ourselves. We've got a printer and a binder and we download the files and make copies. You pay people for the files? Yeah, and then for copies we sell. As many as we want to tell them we've sold anyway. A trust system. Nice. You'll have to tell me all about the site you get your files from. And I'll be taking a few copies for myself. The rest will have to go into storage or the recycling bin. He nods dumbly. I point at the trailer. So, what can I get for these? Night in. The bookshop is now my bitch. On returning from lunch, the owner was even more horrified than his assistant. It's possible my amiable demeanour and calm manner perturbed him more than a loon screaming about theft would have. Their print-on-demand library contains a lot of recent history stuff, and they printed me many free copies whilst I went to lunch. The downside is I returned home carting more books than I had left with. Elizabeth is taken by sounds of soldiers. Who knew my boyfriend was so good-looking? She giggles. Yeah, but look in those eyes. Don't they seem a little dead to you? Like there's not really anything behind them? You're spoiling my fun. But you're right, this isn't the face of a man who could impregnate a sexy spy while nuclear bombs were going off. She starts flicking through the book. Does he mention that? I doubt it. I never did. I think I'll compare the book to your blog's archive. Am I bad for not reading it all already? I kiss her forehead. Hardly. I haven't looked at it for a while either. So we have a quiet night in reading, except when Elizabeth finds something to giggle about. Whoever's done this has tried to simplify the continuity for thicker readers, she points out at one point. He's changed the names of the guys in Apt to match the ones you travelled down country with. And did you know you had a torrid on-again, off-again romance with a resistance leader called Isabel? Really? You'd think I'd remember stuff like that. When I find the person who released this, I'm going to mock them soundly. Not beat them to within an inch of their lives? Not my style anymore. There are a lot of histories of the war, specific and general, and I have a representative sample of them. Only one of them isn't a print on demand. None of them is going to be entirely correct, but I should get some new perspectives on my experience if I read them all. I go looking for the Battle of the Mediterranean in all the books. 2 are dedicated completely to it. The rest give it a long chapter. None of them agree on the details, beyond the date and the sea it happened in. The time of the first explosion varies over 3 hours. But I don't know which one is nearest to correct, and I was there. There is even more discord over whose the bombs were and how they were delivered. The French, the Americans, the British, renegade Americans, Iran. It seems everyone had a hand in the fireworks. The truth, or something a lot closer to it than this, will eventually out, I guess. But for now, everyone has their own conspiracy theory. I should get a pad and start comparing the different claims. My own take is pretty much what Marianne was told the following day, that elements in the US Navy had taken matters into their own hands and stopped the imminent bloodletting. This will all make sense one day. But not right now. Still too soon. Yeah, nowhere near enough perspective. And the governments haven't started opening up their files. There isn't even a US government to have files as far as I can tell. The Battle of the Med is going to remain an enigma for quite a while. My head's beginning to hurt. Let's go to bed. The past can wait for another day. Numbers. One of the print-on-demand books I blogged is made up primarily of numbers and infographics. For an old, wired reader like me, it's fascinating. Some of the numbers are verifiable and definite. size of the bomb that ate Paris, number of nuclear detonations in the Med, total US forces in Europe before hostilities, that sort of thing. Others have increasingly wide error margins on them. US deserters, direct civilian deaths, secondary civilian deaths, tertiary civilian deaths. Tertiary casualties is an odd concept. Primary is obvious, secondary too, unexploded bombs and the like. Tertiary deaths are those that didn't happen in war zones, but were probably due to the changed situations of the war years. Keith would count as a tertiary casualty. Elizabeth's brother might still be alive if the conflict hadn't messed with the international pharmaceutical industry. The authors of the book admit that their estimates for tertiary casualties have a huge margin of error. Even rounding down as aggressively as they can, the lowest number they come out with is in the millions. The high-end estimate is up toward $1.5 billion. The conflict began in the early summer and almost immediately disrupted international trade. All those food miles suddenly cost a lot. The British government showed uncommon sense with their campaigns to bring as much land as possible back into use to produce food. That first winter sounds like it was harder here than it was for me, living off the land in France. Other countries didn't react as quickly, expecting the supplies to start flowing again soon. They lost a lot of people to starvation and rioting at the end of that first year. There is one area where the book has even more guesswork than over tertiary deaths. There are no official details on what happened inside the borders of the former United States. It is believed that as many as 24 nuclear warheads were detonated within the borders of mainland USA. Washington was one victim, though no one knows whether it was the regime's version of a suicide pill or a dramatic way of overthrowing them. New York, somehow, wasn't. One of the many self-proclaimed governments of the divided states of America operates out of the old UN building in Manhattan. Their influence doesn't even extend all the way up their own state. The other detonations' locations are mostly unknown. It's assumed that most of them weren't targeted at cities, but at military locations as the states disappeared in the shortest ever civil war. Not that America's urbanites had anything to be thankful for, as the fallout contaminated the fields of the heartlands and poisoned domestic food production. In the culture wars made-up battle between the coasts and the heartland, nobody really won. Gun. I pay for the bullets, and Robinson and I go hunting for rabbits to feed to my family. Afterwards, I clean the gun. It's been a few months and I'm getting out of practice. Would your friend be able to get me a handgun? What would you be looking for? For a while in France, I had a Caracal subcompact with the adapter for full-size mags. Never used it in anger, but it was accurate at the sort of range you'd expect to be using it at. You're not planning to do anything silly, are you? It's been suggested I'm on a list. Certain people think I've been naughty, the sort of people who like to car bomb shoppers. No gun's going to be any use against a car boot full of IRA mix. I'm hoping common sense, or paranoia, will protect me from that. I'd just like something just in case. Have you ever killed a man? The cleaning is done. I put the gun back in its case. 3. Robinson looks surprised at that, but he believes me. He nods. I'll ask. Passing judgment. I heard the crunch of running feet on the gravel fire track early enough that I could lay the long gun aside and raise a submachine gun. I stepped back so I was partially shielded by a tree and waited. Seconds later, he rounded the corner, 100 or so metres away at a full run. He had the look of someone who had been surviving in a forest for weeks, and he didn't have the orange armband that was the daily colour of friendly forces. "Halt!" I shouted, as loud as my suddenly very dry throat would allow. He hardly faltered as he raised his gun, almost identical to the one I'd snatched from the airdrop. I got off a 3-round burst, but judged it badly. All 3 kicked up dirt in front of him. But one ricocheted and caught him in the right shin. He fell and tumbled, ending up sprawled on his back far from his weapon. "Don't fucking move!" He was still dazed. The pain from his shattered shin hadn't started to register. "Fuck you! Show yourself, coward!" "Hands where I can see them." "You're English? Ain't you? You fags are next when we finish with the French. We're going to wipe all you Islamofascist lovers out." Haven't you heard? Your country doesn't exist anymore. You won't be doing anything more than dying. I'm not afraid of dying. The Lord my God will judge me. Willie, what will he think of raping a 10-year-old after making her watch her family being killed? What will your Lord God think of that? For a moment there was fear and doubt on his face. That wasn't me. His right hand had been moving around all the time. No doubt he was going for his backup weapon. I'd steadied my aim after the first burst, and was now confident I had the middle of his chest perfectly targeted. He wasn't wearing body armour, so that made it easier. Tell that to the folks coming to meet me. Some of them are related to that girl. All of them have lost someone to you cunts. He stopped on the way to his weapon. This time I fired a 3-shot burst into his chest, and then another to be certain. When the squad found me, I'd laid him out for burial and taken his name for the records. I killed Corporal Glenn O'Reilly in a forest in the south of France, 5 days after his countrymen detonated nuclear weapons within their own borders. The country he had been fighting for had ceased to exist in 24 mushroom clouds. Sleepless. I can't sleep. My parents, and my brother and his family, arrive tomorrow, and I'm going to introduce them to my girlfriend, a former lover, and the grandson they don't know about. I miss my student days, when the most I had to worry about when they visited was hiding my housemates' joints. The gun's keeping me awake as well. I had forgotten the paranoia that being armed generates in me. It's a nice piece, a mongrel constructed from at least 3 weapons. The actions are all smooth, trigger pressure is about right, and there's been a little bit of machining and weighting to improve the balance. Robinson's lady friend is an above-average gunsmith. There are 3 magazines, one left empty on a rotating basis to rest the spring, and a box of rounds. I thought about keeping it a secret from Elizabeth, but there's no way a piece that well hidden could be any use. We sat at the kitchen table, and I stripped it down whilst we talked about being armed. Do you really think it will make us safer? No, and yes. You can't have it both ways. I started putting the gun back together again. It's sort of 2 different kinds of safe. When I came off the bike, the helmet saved my life. It didn't prevent the accident, but it made the difference between being alive and functional and being dead or brain damaged. That's why I wore a helmet in the first place. No matter how careful and vigilant I was, I couldn't change the fact that there were a lot of idiots on the road. I handed the reassembled, unloaded gun to her. Fully loaded, it's a bit heavier. She pointed it at the floor and pulled the trigger, jumping when the hammer fell on an empty chamber. The gun's a bike helmet. I'll do everything I can to stay out of trouble, keep us out of trouble. But the gun is there just in case. I slid a magazine in a position, but didn't chamber around. Now the gun's in the bedside table, where I can get at it easily if I have to. It'll go somewhere safer if Robert Jr. ever stays over, but otherwise, it stays close to me at all times. You can't choose your family. I don't know who's more nervous, Elizabeth or me. The house is spotless. We've borrowed a table and chairs for dining, and there's rabbit and veg ready to roast. We sit in the living room and wait. Your family does know about us, don't they? Yes. Well, I've implied. Implied. Oh, great. I haven't told them about Petit Robert yet. No, couldn't work out how to. Bloody hell. I told them there was some stuff that was too complicated for the phone. I think they're used to me telling them there's stuff I can't tell them until I see them. My parents know about your son. I think Dad's looking for a shotgun. They want to meet you, but they're even further away than your family. The doorbell rings. And so it begins. Elizabeth sighs as she heads into the kitchen and I go to the door. My big brother's put on some weight and there's more grey in his hair. And he's holding a baby. You have 4 years of uncling to catch up on. This is Becky. He passes me his daughter. She stares at me, all serious, then reaches for my nose. I shift her around until I think I've got her in a safe hold. And this is Ivan. George beckons his son forward. He's a pale child with hair so blonde it's almost white. He gets that from his mother. He cocks his head to one side and studies me. I've seen pictures of you, Ivan announces. And I've seen ones of you. It's nice to meet you at last. Yes. Ivan looks around. Have you met Mummy before? He asks. Miranda's still stick thin, despite 2 children. And gorgeous. The short hair suits her. I never had an embarrassing crush on her, not even for a moment. You're not allowed to leave the country again. Bad things happen. And I get pregnant. Elizabeth has come back from the kitchen and is standing nervously at the foot of the stairs. I carry my niece over to do introductions. Ivan and Miranda come with me whilst George fights to get a stroller over the threshold. When we're close enough, Becky makes a grab for Elizabeth's hair. Hello there. Elizabeth takes a baby from me. Your family does make beautiful babies, doesn't it? Miranda's looking at me. There are a couple of... I don't get to finish my explanation because I'm suddenly in one of George's bear hugs. 5 years, man. We've missed you. Why couldn't you have come back sooner? Now Miranda's hugging me and we're all crying. After a minute or so, we've all calmed down. I'm about to start explaining when a little voice pipes up. Bonjour, papa. Qu'est-ce qui passe? I'm an uncle. I'm an uncle too. Yeah, but you already knew you were an uncle. This is a bit of a shock. If it's any consolation, I've only known I'm a father for a few weeks. Long enough to warn me. Sorry. Robert and Ivan, watched over by Miranda, are teaching each other words from a big bilingual children's dictionary. They're very different cousins. My boy is gregarious and jolly. George is reserved and serious. I suspect there'll be character clashes. What time are Mum and Dad due? George asks. About half an hour. You haven't told them either, have you? No. I think I might disown you. You're trying to make our parents die of shock. You need a drink? Hell yes. George checks on Becky, asleep in her stroller, before we head through to the kitchen. Elizabeth and Marianne are conspiring. At least, that's the impression I get by the way they stop talking as we enter. Drinks, ladies? I bought a trailer full of beer from one of the local microbreweries and got an interesting selection of ales. They both shake their heads. We take 2 random bottles to the bottom of the garden, where there's a bench under the apple tree. George takes a big swig from his bottle. Fuck's sake, Robert. 5 fucking years! I know you wrote, but fuck! He takes another swig. Are there any more bastard children I'm uncle to? I don't think so. 5 fucking years. Mine, you're looking good on it. And that picture of the Eiffel was everywhere. You must be minted. If the government ever gives me my money back. We drink in silence for a while. He stares up through the branches. Don't ever do that again. No more chasing danger. I didn't chase danger. It found me. Don't bullshit your big brother. I'm out of beer. Marianne has brought consular wine and is plying Elizabeth and Miranda with large glasses. George and I crack open more beers. By the time the parents arrive, we've all got a happy fuzzy glow going on. There are family hugs all round. Then Mum turns to Marianne. Elizabeth? I am Marianne. This is Elizabeth. My dear, it's so nice to meet you. Is he being tidy? He never could manage to keep his houses tidy. Mother! He's doing fine. Why don't you say hello to your grandchildren? Miranda suggests. All 3 of them, George stage whispers. I could punch him, if it wasn't so great to have all my family together. Drop. I spent a long time staring at the body of the man I'd strangled to death. I didn't feel sick. I glanced at the bodies of the 3 men who'd entered the forest with me and felt glad not to be one of them. After a while, I began to get a detached feeling, like an out-of-body experience. That was the point where I knew I had to start moving, or I'd be a zombied sitting target for any of the American's friends who were out there. His gun lay close by, where it had dropped from his grasp as he passed out. I picked it up and studied it, but took a minute to realise what was strange about it. It was brand new. There was almost no wear on it, except where it had hit the ground as he thrashed around. It still had the thin sheen of oil it had been wearing when it left the factory. Studying the body, I could now tell that the webbing he wore was new as well. The pouches that hung off it held spare magazines, boxes of ammunition, and a tracking device. I rolled him over and, without looking him in the face, removed the webbing. After a bit of adjustment, it fit me. I reloaded the gun and surveyed the hollow. It was obvious where he had entered from. The path came down from the trees, ran around a small boulder, then headed out again. A shallow gouge in the wounded tree showed me where our attacker had fallen from. Crouching, and with the gun at the ready, I climbed to where he had been standing. I hadn't expected to find anybody at the top of the short climb, but a little paranoia was appropriate. I scanned the trees and soon found the direction he had come from. Branches had been broken and the ground was disturbed. He had run to the vantage point so he could be waiting for us. I turned the tracking device on. It indicated that something was slightly to the right of where he'd come from. I started to trace his steps back. The paranoia resurfaced and I tried to keep the gun at the ready. That didn't work with the tracker in one hand, until I found out how to mount it where the sight should normally go. The pod had been slowed by a parachute, which had tangled in the branches to hold it upright, with the tip jammed between roots. This wasn't a bomb or a fuel tank. It had panels which opened along its length to reveal the cargo inside. Weapons, lots of them. I approached slowly and checked inside. There were more submachine guns like the one I carried, grenades, slabs of what was probably C4, sniper rifles, webbing, and lots of ammunition. I'd carried a hunting rifle early in the conflict and become quite good with it. It would be nice to have another one. So I shouldered one and grabbed a few boxes of ammunition. The beacon had to be somewhere inside the pod. Not the nose, because that would hit the ground first. Somewhere in the tail, then. The skin was thin and the pod was hollow all the way to the end. I craned my head around and stared up the inside. There was a red light up there. It took a bit of fussing to get the gun in and aimed, then I let off a couple of bursts. They were horribly loud in the confined space, but the light went off. The tracker wasn't detecting anything anymore. I made myself absent, jogging down to the clearing as fast as possible. It was only when I was back with the bodies that I realised I should have tagged the location with my GPS. Where were you when the lights went out? With the tears, the questions, and the updates, it takes a while to get round to eating. It's dusk when we sit down at the table. George eyes the meat with suspicion. Mum cuts off a chunk and tastes it. Squirrel? She asks. I shot it myself. We've started to see red squirrels around our way, since everyone started eating greys, Dad says. That's not really caught on where we are, admits Miranda. But we do get a lot of fresh fish. The lights go out, which inspires a moment of confused silence. That hasn't happened for a while, Elizabeth says. She goes to a shelf in the corner and comes back with 2 wind-up lamps. One's got enough power to illuminate the table. I start turning the handle on the other. It still happens a lot to us, Dad says. There's a local grid to connect the windmills and water turbines, but they can't always generate enough. Marianne's phone rings. She takes it through to the kitchen. When she comes back, I've got the second lamp lit. I read her expression and get up to head upstairs for my gun. Trouble? Asks Elizabeth. Rioting in Victoria Park. They think they have captured the insurgents. How close is that? Miranda asks. A mile and a bit, Elizabeth tells her. Are we in any danger? I think Robert and Marianne are ready to protect us. Marianne produces a small pistol. It is unlikely anyone will come here, and if they do, I will not use this unless absolutely necessary. I run up the stairs to get my gun. We finish the meal in an uncomfortable silence, listening for sounds of rioting. The feeling of the gun in my belt sobers me up quickly, and no one else wants to drink anymore. The boys, thankfully, are treating it like an adventure, and after a while dive under the table to make a fort. Elizabeth takes my hand and squeezes it. Is this what it was like all the time in France? Mum asks after a while. Some of the time, yes. You know how to use that gun? Yes. Did you ever have to kill someone? I can't lie to my mother, but I can't bring myself to say it, so I nod. That pretty much brings dinner to an end. Dessert was going to be fruit salad. I guess it will do for breakfast. I've got my bedroom ready for you to stay in, Elizabeth tells my parents. We thought George and Miranda and the children could take the spare Robert's room, and we'd sleep in the front room. Marianne, do you want to stay here until the trouble's ended at least? It would be best, I think. Petit Robert can spend some time with his cousins, and Robert and I can take turns to stay on guard. It gets dark quickly. When we come to take the kids to bed, we briefly lose Robert and Ivan, until we realise they never came out from under the table. They're curled up and asleep, worn out from the excitement. It's terribly sweet. George and I carry our sons up the stairs. Elizabeth volunteers to carry Becky. George surveys the walls of my room in the weak lamplight. He quickly guesses what it's all about. I see dead people. Hey, they're not all dead. Everyone on that wall is still alive. There aren't as many on that wall, though, are there? No, I guess not. The boys share an air mattress on the floor. Becky gets a makeshift cot made from a storage box filled with blankets. We leave Miranda and George to look after the babies and head downstairs to start watches. Marion takes the first shift and Elizabeth and I cuddle up on the sofa the best we can. Getting to sleep is surprisingly easy. Waking up again when Marianne starts shaking my shoulder at 1 a.m. proves a lot trickier. Elizabeth mumbles as I tuck her in, but doesn't wake. Marianne shares a sit-rep with me in the hallway. It has been quiet for a while. I have been updated that the terrorists are pinned down somewhere in Longsight. The second battle of Longsight. Great. We should be safe, but it's best for you to take a watch. She stretches out on the floor with the last of the spare blankets, and I take a seat halfway up the stairs. It's not easy to stay awake. I try composing chapters of my book. I should have a notebook. Some of the stuff I come up with is quite good. But checking my watch shows me that what feels like an hour is usually only 10 minutes. At about 2:30, there's the sound of light footsteps upstairs. A little voice from the top step whispers, Maman? Non, Robert, c'est moi. Papa. He climbs down to me and leans against me when he reaches my step. I'm waiting for some tale about how he can't sleep, but he just drifts off and starts making little whistling snores. So much for the conversation that was going to keep me awake. As far as I can tell, I don't nod off all the way through to 5 o'clock, when Elizabeth finally realises I'm not beside her and comes looking for me. She sits beside us and plays with Robert's hair. How are the boys? Sleepy and sleeping. It'll be getting light soon. Shall we have an early breakfast? We carry Junior into the dining room and put him down in the corner, where he starts to work up. Bon matin, Tante Elizabeth, he manages sleepily. Papa. By the time we're serving up fruit salad, Marianne is awake and fussing over our child. There's movement upstairs as well. The rest of my family is going to drift down one by one. I'm getting that welled-up feeling when there's a knock at the door. I'm not expecting anyone, Marianne announces as she goes for a gun. Neighbours, I wonder? I doubt it. Not this early, Elizabeth replies. It's probably nothing, but I hold my pistol behind my back as I go to the door. Marianne is at the foot of the stairs, ready to cover me. I turn the key slowly, hopefully quietly, then open the door with my left hand. My right holds the gun up to the back of the door, ready to shoot through it if I have to. The tired-looking man on the step, with a blood-stained jacket, is my SAS shadow. Sorry to bother you, he says, but I killed 2 men last night and I really need somewhere friendly to sit down for a while. I click the safety on and slide the gun back into my belt. Do you think you could have got me through the door? He asks. Who knows? But it would have distracted you. Come on in. Marianne stays in position as he comes through the door, putting her gun away as I give her the nod. We go way back, I tell her, though I still don't know his name. Wilson, he tells me. Eric Wilson. Rank and number aren't necessary, I hope. He takes a seat and Elizabeth hands him fruit salad. Thanks. When he's finished eating, Wilson sits back, visibly relaxing. I don't know if there are any more squads in town, but that one won't kill any more people. Just the 2 of them? Marianne asks. 4 in total. The crowd got 1, I got 2, and some old guy with a .22 hunting rifle got the last one. I think I know him. Elizabeth studies the bloodstain on Wilson's left shoulder. Some of the blood is still damp. Is that okay? It's not very deep. Flying glass, I think. Let me have a look at it. Elizabeth produces a large first aid kit and quickly cleans up and bandages the wound when Wilson shrugs out of his jacket and tears the arm from his t-shirt. That'll do for now. But you should probably get some of those butterfly stitches on it to heal it properly. Thanks. Do you mind if I find somewhere to sleep for a while? I show him into the front room. He stretches out on the sofa and is asleep almost immediately. The war isn't over, Marianne sighs. I should make my way back to the consulate. Would you look after Le Petit for the rest of the day? No problem. He should spend some time with his grandparents after all. There are cheek kisses all round before Marianne's driver turns up. She's on the way out the door as George comes down the stairs with Becky. There's a strange man sleeping in your front room, he observes. Don't wake him up. He's got a gun. George hands me my niece, who yawns, looks around, then drops her head to my shoulder and goes back to sleep. I'm going to be the first person to ask you this today. Or maybe not. What are your plans now you're back? Big Brother asks. Who knows? It's a whole new world. I'm just going to see where it takes me. The end. Thank you for listening. Sounds of Soldiers is available to buy as an ebook and in print, and will very soon be available as an audiobook. If you enjoyed this and would like to support me in other ways, I have a Patreon and a YouTube channel, which isn't always me reading from my books. You can see me going to events and building models and other stuff if you work your way back through the history. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, goodbye.